yeah, was there more to the email, Sid?
Yes, he asks another question. Would you rather have a long-running series with a lot of content or a more condensed, well-told story? His examples being One Piece versus Assassination Classroom. He says he knows being a business why a good manga loses a lot of steam like the last half of Naruto and Bleach, so they drag on too long for nothing. Wanted our ideas. And it really depends on the type of story. Like, there are clearly some manga that went on past where its natural conclusion was. A series that immediately springs to mind to me is Hikaru no Go, which had a perfect ending point. But then...
Yeah, that just kind of had, like, an extra bit that wasn't needed, didn't it?
Yeah, the final arc kind of just felt unnecessary. Like, it felt it could have just ended the way that, with that match between Hikaru and Akira that we don't see the conclusion of, but, like, it still is, like, feels like an appropriate ending and for the series and for, like, that journey of that character. And,
well, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, a lot of people, I'm surprised to find out years after I've finished Ice Shield 21 that, like, because there's an entire arc where, like, they pick a lot of the best of the high school players, like, go face off against other high school teams in America, which a lot of people say is pretty unnecessary, but I think just gives us a chance to kind of have basically gives us a lot of great character interaction. But unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people say that, like, that part of the story isn't really necessary, that, you know, they could have just ended the series after they win their big game or whatever. But I personally think it's a pretty entertaining arc in and of itself, but that's just me.
Yeah, the weekly manga...
I feel like... So, sorry, I keep doing this to you.
It's okay. It's a podcast.
Yeah, no, with Ice Shield 21, like, it was definitely, like, an unnecessary extra bit, but I feel like it has this thing in common with the end of Bleach, where I feel like it justified it through how it played out. No one will agree with me on Bleach. I know no one will. But I genuinely feel like that final storyline, after the roughest of starts, actually, like, when it became Ichigo versus Quincy God, that became fantastic.
Well, I think the final arc of Bleach, like, all the ideas presented in it were stuff that should have happened, but the execution just wasn't good.
Yeah, like, it honestly, Bleach could have ended after Soul Society without any trouble, but, like, so that kind of did it multiple times, going like, oh, we could have ended here, still going, could have ended here, but, like, I don't regret any of that, even Hueco Mundo, which I thought was garbage while I was reading it, but in hindsight, it's quite good. Yeah, Ice Shield 21, I feel like, justified it better than most. Like, there's not a doubt in my mind there.
I mean, I've heard that opinion about Ice Shield 21's final arc a lot, but, yeah, I mean, maybe. Like, there's also some manga that, you know, go on past where might have been a more satisfying conclusion, but we still get good stuff out of it. Dragon Ball always comes to mind to me because, like, you know, you could have ended that with the 23rd Budokai. That would have been a completely satisfying ending. But then we wouldn't have gotten so much great stuff that we got out of the Dragon Ball Z portion of the story. So, you know, and, like, you could say that for pretty much every arc in the Dragon Ball Z portion. Like, oh, you could have ended it here and it'd been perfectly fine. But, you know, we wouldn't have gotten this great stuff. So, yeah, you know.
Yeah. I don't feel like being a good short series is necessarily a plus either. Like, I feel like one of the things that's probably damaged Death Note a lot in hindsight is that it's so quickly reread. Because, like, people loved it at the time, and as it's gone on, people found more and more holes because they've read it enough times to kind of go like, oh, I don't like this part of it, I don't like this part, and so on and so forth. Like, it can be a real negative when it comes to being kept in posterity.
Yeah, but the thing about Death Note is that people are still going to buy it.
Well...
Oh, yeah. Well, you say this, they're all buying Tokyo Ghoul now, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, with Death Note, that's another series that people think went on longer than it needed to. Like, no, a lot of people aren't big on the near mellow portion of the story and feel like the conflict between Light and L was where the series should have just stayed with. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think, though, that, you know, being a short series means that it would be less relevant or more criticized upon rereads, because there's plenty of great short works that, you know, are still regarded as classics, like Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind, Akira, plenty others.
Pluto.
I think the hard thing as well is what do we actually classify as short? Because it varies so much depending on the series. Like, Akira is short, but it's still quite a substantial work.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, just like, I guess people are thinking about, like, series that run for multiple volumes that go into the double digits, and then sometimes you're but then you get series that are, like only a couple volumes. Like, Akira's, like, 6 volumes. I mean, they're, like, 300-page volumes, but, you know,
But it's 6. That still would only put it slightly higher, wouldn't it? Like,
and Nausicaa's only 7 volumes, and then,
Well, here's a good example. Like, Enigma is a very short Shonen Jump series by Kenji Sasaki, but it still ran far past the point people thought it should have ended, because it only really had that first storyline in mind.
Yeah, so it's really all relative. Like, the actual number of volumes or pages that a series runs on doesn't really matter so much as, like, where the story itself and where the natural conclusion felt it should lie. And so
it's kind of like, does it jump the shark?
Yeah, so, like, for Naruto, like, I think that where Naruto ended was the place he needed to end it. I don't think, like, the final arc of Naruto was unnecessary. I think that it was dragged on too long, but I don't think it was unnecessary. I think, like, all the arcs in Naruto were important. It's just the pacing was not the best at times.
Naruto it had the ending it always should have had.
Yeah.
It just really did a war for about 20 volumes.
Yeah.